Australia is no longer considered a trusted supplier of liquefied natural gas for Japan. The chief executive of Japan's Institute of Energy Economics says it's looking elsewhere to make up the shortfall from reduced natural gas. That supply is not coming as much from Russia these days. He made a damning assessment of the Albanese government's policy, which will force gas operators to cut emissions or pay carbon offsets for any new gas projects. Under Labor's safeguard mechanism policies, newly developed gas fields to supply existing LNG plants need to be net zero emissions. Joining me now is Shadow Climate Change and Energy Minister Ted O'Brien. Reaction to this story, first of all?
My initial reaction, Tom, is that the Albanese government was warned, and we continue to see Australia's sovereign risk heighten under its suite of policies. Unfortunately, this is not a surprise.
So what Japan has been saying by this spokesperson is that they understand the need to deal with the issue of emissions, but they don't want to pay for it. Does that make sense? If you're using the gas and getting that economic benefit, shouldn't you also be paying for any emissions reduction?
Tom, I spent some time in Japan just before Christmas, and I met with a lot of people there, including the ministry, talking about their prime concern of energy security. Japan, of course, is its own sovereign nation and its own trading houses, many of which I have worked with for decades in a commercial capacity. They will make their own decision. As they scan the globe, looking at where to invest, where to procure from, they'll make their call. They've been sending warnings to Australia now for months that the government's suite of policies is going to make it more difficult for Japan to trade with Australia. So it comes as no surprise now that you've got major CEO think tanks coming out saying, yep, there's a problem. It's the same as what the ministry said, same as what the ambassador said, the same as what CEOs of industry have been saying. The Albanese's suite of policies are demonising the very resources that our key trading partners like Japan rely on. And as a result, they are not seeing Australia being a trusted partner as we previously have been. That is what sovereign risk is. And once you heighten sovereign risk, you can't just turn a switch and you're back in the good books. Sovereign risk lingers, it lasts. And unfortunately, what the Albanese Labor government is doing is it's heightening sovereign risk, and as a country that imports capital, this makes it very difficult for us across a whole range of investment classes, not just gas.
Right, but again, that question, Japan's saying, yes, deal with the emission side of things, but you pay for it. That's not really viable, is it?
Look, I'll let the Japanese run their own negotiation. What I think they are saying pretty clearly, Tom, is Australia, you've changed the rules of the game. You are putting a cost impost on that you are asking us now to absorb. We're looking across the world, we can go elsewhere. That's the reality of it. The government was warned, and that's what's happening.
But it's kind of a bit of a cop-out for Japan to say, yeah, of course, we agree with the emission side of things. You pay for it. That's not really viable or fair, is it?
Well, I'm not hearing the Japanese say that they're not coming to the party when it comes to their own plans to reduce emissions. Again, I go back to the fact of Japan is dealing with energy security. You know, here in Australia, we don't talk enough about energy security. It is top of mind for anyone in Japan for a whole bunch of very unique features to that country. Once you have a trusted long-term relationship with a country like Australia, and that country then changes the rules, well, of course, you start doubting their ability to continue the play. So I'm not going to cast aspersions on how Japan is reacting to something the government has been warned about.
Well, I'm just asking if what their position is fair enough. So look, on another angle on this, if you like, we've had all these warnings from the IPCC around if you dig up new fossil fuels, we'll go past 1.5 and 2 degrees of warming. so avoid doing that. We're in this position where we're like, well, we kind of still need fossil fuels for now. So isn't this what needs to happen? We offset new fossil fuels. Isn't the Australian government doing what this body is warning in terms of warming?
No, they're not, Tom. If indeed the Albanese government was following the IPCC, well, that body says that the only credible pathways to a net zero world is through embracing nuclear energy. This government refuses to even talk about it. Now,
actually,
the government will try to pull out the IPCC when they want.
But it's got a whole lot of different solutions on the table. Plenty of them include nuclear, but it has never said the only viable is with nuclear.
It has made it very clear that its pathways, plural, its scenarios include nuclear. So
yeah, that's different to what you just said, though.
But I don't want to change your interview to be about nuclear. I mean, you're in the chair, you decide. But point being, that the government will like to try to point to bodies like the IPCC at times and say, oh, this is what they think we should do. They cherry pick. Reality is we've got to do what's in the best interest of Australia, what's best interest of the globe. We have signed up to cut emissions. And as a country, we should be on that pathway. But there's not one pathway. Labor pretends there's only one pathway. The pathway they're taking on us on is going to make us poorer and weaker as a nation, and it is compromising the energy security of our key allies, including Japan. The Japanese are not a people who start speaking publicly about grievances on a whim. They are highly respectful, and they've been calling this out for months, Tom, and the government just will not listen.
On your point, though, on nuclear and the IPCC, it's fair enough to say, well, pathways include nuclear, Labor should be agnostic, but your line there that the IPCC says the only pathway is with nuclear, that's not accurate.
That's not what I said. The IPCC has mapped out alternate scenarios or pathways to net zero. What you'll find when you look at that is that nuclear is absolutely key. I mean, you've got the United Nations, key climate envoy saying there is no credible pathway to net zero without nuclear. You've got John Kerry effectively saying the same thing from the United States. We were just talking about Japan, and Japan has a very unique relationship with nuclear technology. They are embracing new nuclear technology, zero emissions nuclear technology. Our government in Australia refuses to because it's ideological. And we have to remember, energy security equals national security. And look, Tom, I'm here in Townsville with Phil Thompson. I've just come from meeting with Harbourside Cold Storage. Now, that's a business which is a lifeline for this community in food supply. They've got, frozen, refrigerated and dried produce, basically supplying this area. In the case of cyclone or flood, if that gets cut and they're not available, this place is in big trouble. Why is that important? Their power bills have gone up from $1 million a year to $1.5 million a year because of the Albanese government's policies. Higher prices equals energy security. In this case, equals food security.
Should I get you a final one just on another topic? I'm sure you've been reading the reaction today around the whole Donald Trump Jr. visa fiasco. Now the government says he was granted a visa, there was no issue there. But we did see Claire O'Neill, the minister, follow up by calling him a sore loser and having a crack about Donald Trump Sr. as well, and then delete the tweet. What have you made of all that?
Well, it's the first time I've heard of it, Tom, and if that's true, that's appalling. It is absolutely appalling, especially coming from a senior minister. We've just stopped talking about Japan and we're a sovereign risk. Let's not also become an embarrassment to the United States.
Ted O'Brien, thanks for your time.